You are driving, you look out your window, and you see something that stops your brain completely. An assault, a robbery, someone being attacked, a hit and run, something that is clearly, unmistakably wrong. And in that split second before you have even processed what you are looking at, the question forms in your head. Am I supposed to call 911? Do I have to? What happens if I don't? Most people assume the answer is obvious. Of course you have to call. That is just what you do. That is what being a decent person means. But here is what almost nobody knows. The legal answer to that question is not what most Americans think it is. And it varies depending on exactly where you are standing when you witness it. Let us start with the foundation. Under federal law in the United States, there is no general legal duty for a civilian to report a crime they witness. Read that again. There is no federal law that requires you as a bystander, as a witness, as someone who happened to see something, to pick up your phone and call 911. You can witness a crime, walk away, say nothing to no one, and in most states you have broken no law whatsoever. That fact shocks people every single time, because everything we are taught through school, through movies, through basic social norms tells us the opposite. It tells us that doing nothing is wrong. And morally, many people would agree. But morality and legality are two entirely different things. And understanding that difference is exactly what this video is about. Now here is where it gets more complicated. Because while there is no federal duty to report, individual states have their own laws. And some of them do create legal obligations for specific situations. A small number of states have what are called duty to report laws or duty to assist laws. These vary enormously. Some require you to report certain serious crimes, violent felonies, crimes against children, specific situations where someone is in imminent danger. Others require you to provide reasonable assistance to someone in danger, which does not necessarily mean calling 911, but may include doing something to help. And some states have no such requirement at all, beyond specific professional obligations for people like doctors, teachers, or social workers. What this means for you practically is this. The obligation to call 911 when you witness a crime depends heavily on three things: what state you are in, what type of crime you witnessed, and whether you fall into a category of person, a professional, a mandatory reporter who has specific legal duties beyond those of an ordinary citizen. But here is the piece of this conversation that most people never reach, because they stop at the question of whether they have to call. The more important question is, what happens after you do? When you call 911 to report a crime you witnessed, you have now inserted yourself into a legal situation. You may be asked to give a statement. You may be called as a witness. You may be asked to testify. Your account of what you saw becomes part of an official record. And if your account is incomplete, inconsistent, or contradicts physical evidence in ways you cannot explain, that inconsistency can become a problem for you even as a witness rather than a suspect. This is not a reason to stay silent when someone genuinely needs help. It is a reason to understand that the moment you make that call, you have responsibilities that come with it. You should be accurate. You should only report what you personally witnessed. You should not speculate. You should not add details you are not certain of. And you should understand that the conversation with the dispatcher is being recorded from the first second. Now, what about the moral side of this? Because the law is one thing, but most people watching this are not primarily concerned with whether they will be prosecuted for not calling. They are concerned with whether they are doing the right thing. And the honest answer is that the moral weight of witnessing a crime and doing nothing is something the law cannot fully address either way. There are situations where calling is clearly the right thing. There are situations where calling may make things worse. There are situations where the crime you witnessed is far more ambiguous than it first appeared. And there are situations where getting involved, even by phone, puts you or your family at risk. The law gives you room to make those judgments. But room to make a judgment is not the same as permission to ignore a genuine emergency. If someone is in immediate danger, if a life is at risk, if a child is being harmed, the legal discussion almost stops mattering. You call. Right. Because some situations are beyond the question of legal obligation. The question of whether you had to call is less important than whether the information you gave was true, measured, and responsible. That standard protects you. It protects the person you are reporting about. And it protects the integrity of whatever comes next. Drop a comment right now. Tell me honestly, did you think you were legally required to call 911 when you witnessed a crime? See you in the next video.